Now, what's the role of visuals specifically in brand storytelling? So, human beings are drawn to narrative. In fact, our entire society is basically structured around a set of different stories that are invented, but that we all agree upon. The idea of a nation state, I'm from the UK, okay? There is no actual thing, physical thing in the world that is Britishness. And yet, all of the people in my country agree that they're British to a lesser or greater extent. And as a result, they make sacrifices, for example, in tax, in ways in which that they will look after their fellow Briton. This is the power of a shared narrative. Now, another example of a shared narrative is a brand. If you're thinking of a brand like Nike, countless people, millions and millions of people across the globe will buy into the Nike story. People pay so much more money for things with a Nike tick on because they trust the brand, they trust the product, they trust the service, they know the story that it sells. Photography is part of communicating that brand. As I said before, businesses that understand their brand are able to use photography to communicate their brand to a potential audience. For me, there are two types of imagery that businesses use. There are brand photographs and there are pictures. A picture is a visual representation of a product or a service, but it lacks the substance of the brand story behind it. A brand photograph, on the other hand, will communicate the same demonstrative purposes. It will show you a product or a service, but it will be imbued with the actual story of the brand behind it. A brand has a set of values and a story that it wants to tell its consumers, and that can be communicated within the imagery. Brand photography translates these values into visual ones. So at this point, you might be thinking, wow, this is all quite esoteric. I don't really know what you're talking about. But think about it like this. If you've got a quite funny, cheeky brand, you would expect then that the imagery is going to be quite cheeky, quite funny. Let's take the earlier example of Nike. Nike's famous slogan is just do it. Their whole brand is about inspiring people to get up, go out and start doing the exercise or sport that it is that they sort of hope to do. It doesn't really matter who you are, where you just do it. So when we see Nike imagery, we expect that imagery to reflect that. It's inspirational. So you'll have the camera looking up towards the model so they feel like a hero. In fact, they're inclusive, so we should expect to see a diversity of faces within their imagery. We know that it's going to be some intense lighting and it's sharp and it's powerful and it's impactful because that's what we expect Nike to be. So if we saw a Nike campaign one day that had got totally different brand imagery to that, say in the style of a very famous company in my home country, Cadbury's, which is very silly, very playful, very fun. It's a chocolate company. You'd be pretty baffled. Those two things wouldn't make any sense. So good brand photography is photography that communicates the brand story, the brand message to its potential audience. Failing to communicate the brand within the imagery creates noise, and its service is only to confuse the consumer about the product or service that you offer. So you can go ahead and you can create beautiful imagery that shows your product in use. But if all of the other visual aspects like the lighting and the contrast and the color and the actual story potentially with the models in the scene doesn't reflect the story of your brand, you're just going to confuse the customers. And on top of that, photography should be part of a wider marketing campaign. It should be aligned with the strategy of the rest of the brand. So you'd expect all of those other aspects to be aligned.